opposition, I always understand that on the other side of the opposition is opportunity. On the other side of the resistance is breakthrough. On the other side of the limitations, well, I don't even want to say limitation. On the other side of the pressure, there's definitely promotion and possibility. And so, what we have to do is we have to become conditioned at contending against challenges. Write that down. You have to become conditioned at contending against challenges because I talk to so many people that say, "Oh, Jamel, I want to achieve this with my life. I want to do this in the world. I want to accomplish this." And I say, "Well, you can absolutely do that. Let's devise a plan. Let's craft a strategy. Let's get a tactic and a tool to help you make this a reality." But one of the things I tell people right off the bat is that this is not going to be easy. Are you committed? Are you all the way in on this? Or is this something you just kind of casually want? And the reason I say that is because for every assumption about overnight success and overnight victory and overnight breakthrough, I can show you decades of work that has gone into that result. And if you are not committed, you are not going to be conditioned to contend against the resistance and the forces that try to stand in the way of what you want to see. And what I've come to realize is that a lot of people want advancement with no adversarial forces, and it just doesn't happen that way. And that's why when I do my New Year messages, a lot of people don't like it because they're like, "Jamel, you're supposed to be motivational and inspirational." And I say, "I am, but I'm realistic." And I tell people going into the year, you can have all the slogans, catchphrases, inspirational quotes, but let me tell you, you're going to have opposition this year. You're going to have adversity. You're going to have crises. You're going to have challenges this year. And how you respond to that is going to determine your result. And so when life happens, people start calling me and emailing me like, "Oh, all this stuff is happening in my life. I thought this was going to be my year." I said, "Well, it's still your year. You just have to understand that if you want anything worthwhile in life, you got to war for it. Write it down. If you want anything worthwhile in life, you got to war for it." I've never seen so many people that give up so easily at the first sign of discomfort or pressure or resistance, or even people that disagree with them. You know, the number of people that just throw in the towel because somebody doesn't agree with them or somebody has a different expectation of them is unbelievable. And I tell people if I listened to that, I wouldn't have done anything because somebody always has something to say about what you're doing. Why are you doing it that way? This is not a good idea. And like I say, it always comes from people that aren't accomplishing anything. It's normally somebody sitting on the sideline that is lazy, unmotivated, and mediocre that's trying to tell everybody else what they should do. And why in the world would I listen to you when I look at your life and I see no results and no progress? So we have to be very intentional about who we're taking our cues from and who we're getting advice from. But that's a whole nother conversation for another day. The last few months have brought some extraordinary victories in my life. At the same time, I've also come through one of the most challenging seasons of my life. Um, so I tell people this has been a great year. Um, Achieved some great things, seen some great breakthroughs, seen some amazing results in my life. But I would be remiss if I did not tell you, especially this third quarter has been very challenging. And I have really had to focus. The person who tells everybody focus, focus, focus has really had to focus because there has been great opportunity to be distracted or to back up from some of the things that I was in pursuit of. And so at the same time, uh, I've had those moments where I've had to stop, breathe, and remind myself why I do what I do. Let's stop here for a minute. When you encounter resistance, when you encounter opposition, you require encounter, excuse me, adversarial forces. You got to hit the reset button on your life, and you got to remind yourself why you do what you do. You're not doing it for other people's expectations. You're not doing it for other people's opinions. You're not doing it for other people to like you. You're not trying to get any credibility or respect from anybody. You got to be committed to the why. Why did you ever commit to this and start this in the first place? Because if you don't, the warfare and the opposition and the resistance that comes with that, you're going to give up and you're going to throw in the towel. And everybody that knows me knows I don't do things for accolades, accomplishments, achievements, or any accoutrements of success. I do it because it's my assignment and it's what God put me here to do. And I had to remind myself of that once again, regardless of who doesn't get it, regardless of who doesn't like you, regardless of people who say all kinds of things about you and make all kind of accusations against you. You got to be committed to why you're doing what you're doing, and you got to make sure you're doing it and motivated by the right reason. So it's good to hit the reset button on your life over and over again. And I always tell people, if you don't have a strong enough why, you're going to lose the war in your life, because a strong enough why will overcome any what that attempts to get in your way. But when I talk to people who don't have a strong why, they give up and they succumb to hopelessness and despair and despondency because they don't really have anything to fight for. And there's no greater frustration in life than living without something to fight for. Write that down. There's no greater frustration in life than living without something to fight for. I always tell people, when we're devising their life strategy and their life plan, one of the first conversations we have is your why and what are you fighting for? Because if we construct this elaborate plan and you don't know what you're fighting for, and I already told you that you're going to be met with opposition along the way, you're going to give up and throw in the towel, and you're going to forfeit so many things in your life. And so you got to have that strong why that's going to keep you going, keep you persevering, even when life gets extremely difficult. More importantly, I've had to learn to get quiet even more, and excuse me, not everything demands a response. Let me say that again. I got tongue tied. I had to learn to become quiet even more, and that not everything demands a response. Some of you got to get this lesson. You know, I'm studying some things in the Bible. I'm always studying something in the Bible, but I'm reading some things about Job, and Job is such a good book. Some people say, I don't know, Jamel, Job is depressing. Well, Job is a soul book. I remember studying the book of Job years ago, and it's a soul book. And every time I go through Job, I see all of this soul wisdom and soul lessons that I'm applying in some aspect of my life. And, Job went through it. If anybody went through adversity and hardship in life, Job, we can look him up in the dictionary. He was that person. But it's something interesting I was reading in Job the other day, and it says that even in the midst of all this adversity, he did not sin with his lips. He did not charge God foolishly. He did not curse his life with his speech, regardless of what's going on around him. And I don't know if you've listened to this podcast. I've been doing this podcast more than a decade, so you've heard me say this, but I have to say it again. Your words are powerful. They do not dissipate or disintegrate. They boomerang back to you and they create your reality. And so the today I'm living in is a manifestation of the words I spoke yesterday. And my tomorrow will be the product of the words that I'm speaking today. And I don't know if we always really understand that, because I listen to people and they get frustrated, they get emotional, they fly off the handle, they say all of this stupid stuff about their self and their life. And then they get confused when they get the harvest. And they're like, man, I don't know why this is happening. And, it's taken everything in me to just sit there and not say, duh, you spoke it over your life, because people don't believe that. Like, we believe it in theory that words are powerful, but we don't really believe that, because anything that you believe, you begin to embody. So anybody that knows me will tell you I really believe in the power of words. So you're not gonna sit around me saying all kind of stuff, cursing your life, speaking ill of yourself and other people, speaking from a place of defeat. Like, I'm not gonna tolerate that, because that's getting into the atmosphere and that's going to begin to frame a reality. So I don't even allow that kind of talk around me. But so many of us, we are so unskilled with our words. We just say whatever we want to say. And then when we get the harvest of that, we are so confused. And what people don't realize